Hello everybody, welcome to the Robert H. Wild True Crime Show. Turns out that OBS is muting itself frequently without me pressing anything, so I'll have to look into that. If I go silent, do let me know, and we'll work out what's causing that. I've got 3 stories tonight. No, it's not that ditch, I didn't press anything. It's been fine, and then it's just turned itself off. So. Music too loud. How about that? Okay, good. There is a possibility this evening that for the first time you will see my cat on the stream. The door is open, the cat cam is fixed. Just depends if she wants to come in. I'll give you the full context of this story. Yesterday, my cat managed to barge the office door open and leap out of the office window onto a roof, where she had to be retrieved with a ladder. Today, with the door securely locked as I've been working away, she's been banging on the door. So 20 minutes before starting the stream, I made sure the windows were all secure and I opened the door. She came running in and jumped headfirst into the window and has now left. So I don't know if she's coming back, but if she does, cat cam is ready. Obviously, being a cat, there's absolutely no chance. Thank you very much for the gift sub, Ditch Boy. I really appreciate the subs. If anybody does want to sub, feel free, or follow is much appreciated as well. We've got 3 stories today. So we've got a rather lethal con, which I think you'll find interesting. Although this is the closest we're going to come to skirting politics, but we won't get into the politics, but we might have to. We've got a real mystery. It was a missing person. It was a missing child's case, which everyone thought was solved until very recently with DNA. Hello everybody. Hello Raiders. Good to see you, Foxy. I was watching your stream. I hope it ended well. A bit of Adam Mark, who is one of Britain's foremost paranormal investigators. Foxy is a brilliant variety streamer. She was playing Little Nightmares the other day. A bit of Adam Mark tonight. She also sings. Thanks for welcoming everybody. Excellent, Foxy. Glad to see you. Glad to see you liked it. Now I can probably do that. Ah, yes. You see, professional. Bit of a shout out. Turning your big light up before you go blind. Yes. If you're not a streamer, you may not realise that it often involves having an intense portable sun attempting to melt your eyeballs. I don't know whether you actually adjust to it, or but we shall see. All right. I think. Oh yeah, I was teasing. So we've got what was a solved missing persons case that becomes a not solved missing persons case. And if you're wondering how that's possible, you'll find out. Well, also the third story. Let me just double check what it is. It's the third story is about cuckooing. Now, if you've never heard of I'm sure you know. Hello, Sydney. Great to see you. Sydney is an excellent live streamer from Michigan, I believe. Do give him a follow. If somebody could shout Sydney out as well, please. If you know what cuckoos do in real life, you can probably have a little teaser of what my cuckoo story is going to relate to. Now, these are both 3 shorter stories. They're not gory. Don't need to worry about that. It's not one of these serial killer cases where we all sit there going, well, we feel a bit unclean now. Hopefully you'll find these interesting. But I will be honest, a lot of people die in the first one. But you'll find out why. Right, I think we're ready to go. Shall we kick off? So, not every story I tell you involves what you might consider a traditional murder. When people think of murder, they think of serial killers or men with knives and guns, walking up to somebody and shooting them or something. On the other spectrum, you have, say, companies, businesses, which maybe make an accident, say, mix ingredients up, and they sell a harmful product that might kill somebody. And the question that we're discussing in this first section is, where is the middle ground? What does it mean? What would it mean for a company? What would a company have to do to commit murder? And I'm going to argue, in the case of ADE 651, that the people behind it are murderers. And you'll see why. So, the context of this situation is after the US and Allied invasion of Iraq in the early noughties. Now, we're not getting into any of the politics surrounding that, but I think it would be fair to say that as we entered that era of the noughties, there was a sort of a collapse into a vast danger that involved bombings and explosions and all sorts of things like that. Now, companies and countries from across the world really needed cheap, effective and easy ways to stop bombers. Was there a cheap and easy way to stop a bomber? Well, a small company in the UK called Advanced Tactical Security and Communications Limited had invented the ADE 651, which stands for Advanced Detection Equipment 651. And it was just the sort of bomb detecting device the world needed. Over the course of a period of years, they sold tens of millions of pounds worth of ADE 651s to countries that started using it in haste. Yes, at checkpoints and at government buildings. There is just one problem with AD 651. It doesn't work. Not in a we've invented some dodgy tech sort of doesn't work way. It wasn't a bomb detector. It wasn't a functional piece of equipment. It was a complete and useless fake. Bombs went off. People were killed because of this. The Guardian in 2016. Yes, Ditch has now given away where we're going with this. Yes. But we will get into slightly more detail on the type of box and the type of light. If you're watching the VOD, you can't see this chart, so you've no idea where we're going. So the Guardian quotes, the vast majority of bombs that have killed and maimed at least 4,000 people since 2007 have been driven straight past police or soldiers using these devices at checkpoints. So, people were spending millions on a bomb detecting device. What were they actually getting? Well, if you wanted to be generous, and I don't, you might mention that it was rooted in dowsing, but that's also completely nonsense. If you wanted to be brutal, which I do, you would say it was a con of a machine originally designed for finding golf balls. So essentially, despite many different names, the AD 651 was based on the Gopher, which was billed as the amazing golf ball finder. It's worth pointing out, and excuse my language for this one, that even the Gopher was a load of fake bollocks. The gopher was a cheap piece of plastic with aerials which would move randomly if you detected a bomb, a golf ball, a breeze, absolutely nothing. There was no power source. The whole thing was a pure psychological trick mixed with what's called the idiomotor effect. If you tilted yourself, the aerials moved thanks to the static electricity in your body. If you thought you'd found something, fantastic. If you found nothing, well, you're not worried because you've not found a bomb. And life's a lot easier for a few minutes. Over the years, all sorts of pseudo-psychiatric scientific gibberish was attached to both the gopher and the ADE, from specialised electricity, radio waves, nonsense. These devices, as they evolved, went from we can detect trace elements in golf balls to people saying you can find explosives, drugs, money, stuff in front of you, in water, behind concrete, from a kilometre away, even HIV and ivory. A promotional video contained the claim that an ADE could detect an elephant from 48 kilometres. And somehow people still bought it. I feel I'm getting into a bit of a ranty one with this. But I will try and not do that. So, ADE tried its best to make the device look convincing. Each ADE turned up in a huge foam-lined suitcase, like we were buying some high-end headphones. The packaging cost more than the machine. Over time, they started attaching circuit boards, a pistol grip, a holster, a series of cards you could slip into the machine, so it would detect different things. Some had sockets so you could collect two together. None of these ever worked or had any connection inside the unit. The Atlantic reported a study by Marcus Kuhn of Cambridge University on the special card you could plug into the device to detect explosives. This is a quote from the Atlantic. He says, "It was nothing but a type of anti-theft tag used to prevent stealing in high street stores. These are the cheapest bits of electronics you can get that look vaguely electronic and are sufficiently flat to fit inside a card." So you're getting governments spending 40 grand a time on ADEs, giving it to some poor soul at a checkpoint who waved it at passing vehicles and then would get blown to pieces. Unfortunately, the governments using these often put the blame on the people using them for why they weren't working. A Vanity Fair article from 2015 explains some of the advice Iraqi security troops were given as people desperately tried to make the things work. So, users were sometimes instructed to prime the AD651 by generating static electricity. Iraqi security forces began doing a kind of foot-dragging, tiny-stepped geisha dance, like a child in a footy shuffling across a carpet and trying to make sparks. When rumours began to circulate that the device was being thrown off by, of all things, Cologne, the farce reached new heights. At checkpoints, they started removing perfume bottles. Another source, a police officer, was reported as NPR by saying, "If we are tense, the device doesn't work properly. I start slow and I relax my body and I try to clear my mind." Which would be funny if people weren't actually dying from this con. In fact, the detectors were so fake and so obviously nonsense that James Randi, who for years had run a $1 million challenge to people who could claim they had supernatural abilities, offered the company $1 million if they could prove it worked. They didn't reply. There's not many companies that want to turn down $1 million just to prove their product works. You may be wondering, why did anybody buy one of these? Well, the problem is, it wasn't just one person that bought a few of these. Iraq was the biggest customer, spending millions. But a list of purchasers seemed to include every trouble spot in the world, and then some with more money than sense. Lebanon, Syria, Bahrain, and Belgium. Yes, Belgium. They came with instructions that said, don't take these apart and look inside, or the sensitive equipment would be ruined. Obviously, so Ditch has gone for people are stupid and desperate. All correct, but you've missed off greedy. Estimates put the amount of money that ADE took from its profits to then spend as bribes to get more profits as 75%. Not greedy, thieves, yeah. Major General Jihad al-Jabari, once Interior Minister of the General Directorate for Combating Explosives in Iraq, said, I know more about bombs than the Americans do. In fact, I know more about bombs than anyone in the world. And he held this view until he was arrested and imprisoned for bribery. Anyway, so this is all a big con. But a big con, of course, involves people. So it's time to meet some con men. So I said there was a corporation behind this. You need people to run it. The bomb detector story actually starts off again with the Gopher golf ball detector. This was sold by a man called Malcolm Stig Rowe. Wanting a broader range of clients than just golfers, Rowe and colleagues devised the plan. Relabel it as a detector of drugs and sell it to police in schools, which is exactly what they did. They renamed it the Quadro Tracker Positive Molecular Locator, which is worse than your average Doctor Who gibberish. No offence, I love Doctor Who, but everyone that watches it knows there is a tiny bit of describing things with a touch of nonsensical words. We love it. We love it until somebody does it in real life in $1 million car. Anyway, law enforcement and schools started buying it. But don't worry, the FBI turned up, tried it, not only refused to buy it themselves, but told everyone in America not to buy it. Yes, if it had been drugs barons selling the police fake detectors, you could understand, like, there is a certain method to that. These people were just making up nonsense. So Rowe and his team stood trial but weren't convicted, and Rowe jumped bail and went to the UK. He formed a partnership with a couple he met at security conferences who were called The Trees. I would like to point out, I've not gone mad, they were people, they're just called The Trees. They invented a new name. They called it the Mole. There were another set of sales until the Home Office and the Office of Fair Trading tested it and found it completely nonsense. So, 2 countries down, but hundreds more to go. And 2 people had come on board for help. Gary Bolton, with whom they all formed Global Technical, and then Jim McCormick, who came on as a distributor. Sadly, for the world, this group, I was going to say exploded, and that is the least appropriate term ever. So let's change it to broke up in acrimony. And they all went off to sell their own trackers. Jim McCormick went off to make the AD 651 and make millions. McCormick was born in Liverpool in the 50s and spent most of his life working for electrical companies. He spent time in America and then set up his own sales business in Africa. His skill laid in his ability to blind people with tech speak, sell things and travel around looking flash. He used this knowledge, realising a more high-tech looking detector with some high-tech sounding blurb could be sold for more, maybe to actual governments. So he sourced parts and factories, had models made, and they started to sell. The ADE first sold to the Lebanese army, 5 units for a total of $70,000. Unlike the FBI, the Lebanese army were impressed and ordered 80 more at 70,000 for 5. With the ball rolling, he went global. Niger, Georgia, a hotel chain, 5,000 to post-war Iraq. There were bribes and kickbacks and discounts, but the general feeling was that in 5 years he made himself $80 million. He told buyers he had 6 research labs working on innovations. It wasn't just McCormick. The trees had not managed to scale the business as well as McCormick, but they were buying parts from China, and building their version of detectors at home. But despite the various legal issues the ADE was having, Gary Bolton managed to go a step further. He managed to fool the UK's Royal Engineers into helping promote his version at a trade fair with troops in uniform. He got the Department of Trade and Industry, via British embassies in Mexico City and Manila, to help him sell. Later, government tester Tim Sheldon told the BBC, "I really don't know how that had happened. I think they should have checked with the experts that the device actually had some merit before they promoted it." At the same time, the wave of bombings in Iraq grew, and the number of people killed also rose, despite them using because they were using ADE 651. However, the troops on the ground were getting increasingly annoyed at this and made a lot of noise. British and American troops who were in the area as well also began to make a lot of noise. There was no hiding. This AD 651 just wasn't working. And essentially this culminated in pretty much everybody writing to the only jurisdiction that could deal with McCormick, the Avon and Somerset Police. They started an investigation and set about stopping him and bringing him to court. They began with a raid on his office. They were aided by other officers in Britain, one of whom managed to get her hands on a shipment of the devices which he had stopped. Now, in theory, it's an easy case for the government to ban the export of a military or peace security equipment. Right? You can stop any more dangerous product leaving the country. There is a whole system to stop the export of military and security equipment. But ADE found a loophole. It didn't have any working electronics. It didn't have any military parts. It was a useless toy. Laws, which were set up to define what a rocket was, couldn't stop it. This sounds like a joke, but it isn't. British MP David Heath in 2014 is quoted as saying, "The bizarre thing is, as I understand it, is because it doesn't work, it didn't have to have a licence." But no one thought to mention that to the police or to the Foreign Office and trade and industry people to stop them providing support. Someone somewhere made a big mistake. You'd think having to admit it doesn't work would be a problem. Well, don't worry, they then went back to saying it did work. Anyway, fortunately, new rules were put into place specifically to ban electrostatically powered bomb detectors, or nonsense. In response to criticism, McCormick protested that he was working on a new model that had flashing lights. Oddly enough, that didn't fly with the police, and he was arrested for corporate manslaughter. They asked him, "Prove how this works." He couldn't, because it didn't. Yeah, that's like saying I don't earn any money for the purposes of paying tax, when you've blatantly got all the money. Police were also after the trees and the rest. Their company hadn't made as much money, but they were still fakes. And then there was a legal decision. It was unclear if they could successfully convict McCormick of manslaughter. So they didn't try. They didn't. Instead decided, well, we're going to absolutely nail him for fraud. The trial saw the British government and their experts explaining that the device was useless. McCormick knew it was useless, and this was a fraud. McCormick consistently said it works and waffled on for hours without saying how. He also managed to produce an expert. I mean, what can I say that's not slanderous? Let's just say the expert was a bit unreliable. The prosecution hit on what has to be a winning formula. McCormick had to be a fraudster because he manufactured it. He had personally made a device with no actual technical parts, just plastic and aerials. So whatever he might claim, he had signed off on something he knew couldn't do anything. He was found guilty and given 10 years in prison. The company was dissolved. Samuel Tree was given 3.5 years. His wife was suspended sentence, and other people followed. There is, of course, a huge problem, however. Once something has been taken out of its box, it cannot be put back in its box. The ADE 651 started something. Firstly, there are thousands out there still being used. Secondly, other people started doing the same thing. I found a list of suspicious bomb detectors that have been sold in the world that include the H3 Tech, the GT5000, the Alpha 6, the PSD 22, and the Dubel A16D, and more. It's incredibly hard to find them all, warn people, get them to believe, and take them out of service. Take the case of Mexico. Their police had been using the AD 651 to detect drugs for quite a while. It became apparent... Sorry, I've moved away from the mic. It became apparent they couldn't admit the device wasn't real because they had convictions based on the device was real, and all of a sudden all these convictions would become unsafe. So they didn't. Around the world there were huge pressures beyond whether the device actually works. Which, because there's a lot of people who have been bribed. Essentially, there was a whole house of dominoes that would come crashing down the moment people start going, well, we wasted all this money, people died, let's look into it. So there's resistance. Oh, thanks, Cindy, that's good to know. Yeah, I will try not to back off from the mic that far. I was a bit scared I'd cause chaos. McCormick was ordered to repay nearly £8 million. He didn't, so his sentence was extended. He was eventually released in 2019. In 2020, a variant, but no less useless device was released to detect COVID-19. It goes on. So, what do you think he could... What is he? Is he a murderer? Is he a manslaughterer? I think he's more than a fraudster. Dishwater says there really should have been a law change at the very least to have him under some sort of reckless endangerment. Yes, you sell something that you know doesn't work, and you know because it doesn't work, people are going to die. I think that ought to carry with it a greater weight than the sort of fraud that you charge, you know. Well, I'm not going to give any examples in case it looks like I'm sort of soft on those examples. Right? It's worse than snake oil because so many people died. And you know they're going to die. The whole purpose of this is to stop people dying. So the fact it doesn't work means they're going to die. And you still do it. It's like, you know, it feels like it feels to me that it's as bad, you know, it's someone that's physically gone out and killed someone. Because you know, you've essentially guaranteed that people are going to get killed. So throw away the keys. Exactly. Right, we'll take a little pause before we get on to another case, which is a mystery with a twisty. Sorry, I won't do that again. So it looks like, having spent all day trying to get in this room, my cat doesn't want to make an appearance because she's realised I've locked the window. Why she wants to go back on a roof she can't get out of is a cat thing. Somebody, if anyone in chat understands. Sadly, this does mean it's getting very hot, especially with that light. Cats are contrarians, yeah. I can't believe, because it's dark, you see, and it's glass. I can't believe she literally jumped straight into the window, like not even testing to see if it's open. She was just going straight out. So if anyone would like to see my potentially suicidal moggy, she'll be on in a bit, hopefully. The cat, right, I'm going to, look, I've got cat, hang on. I've got cat cam set up, I've got a cushion. There is a cushion, there is a scene change, it's all ready, just need a cat. One day there'll be a stuffed cat there. She's just, oh, is she outside looking at me? Oh yeah, that's her bed. That's her bed with her tail sticking out. So she's in her bed. Yeah, she's in her bed. I'm pleased to say that my cat is the only cat that sleeps in a bed. And she's got two beds, one on each floor, because I am an incredibly soft, pampering man. And she sleeps in both of them. And I've got a friend whose had cats for her whole life, and the cat has never gone anywhere near any sort of purchased bed. And I get a cat, and she's in all of them. It amuses me. Yes, Sydney. I've had a cat cam set up. I've had the cat cam set up from the start, but a cable broke. Also, while I was going for affiliate, I didn't want to risk her coming in and nuking the stream because she's very good at pressing every button possible. Are you buying a bed for your porch roof now too? Too soon. Very too soon. I genuinely, at 3 o'clock in the morning, was in bed wondering if I could put some sort of wooden steps up from my garden to the roof, just in case. I think that might be, not stairs, some wooden stairs. I think that might be a bit far. It's a good job you had a ladder, yeah. I keep the step. I have a garage, but it's separate, so I keep the ladder in my house just in case. Because when you need a ladder, I find you don't need to have to rush off to your garage. You tend to need them immediately. Sydney says my son has 2 cats and they have cat cams in their houses, so when they're away, even on vacation, they can watch their cats. That's brilliant. Before I got a cat, I did a lot of cat sitting for friends. And I would send them photos, and I would live in their house and send them photos and videos throughout the day. Obviously, I can't cat sit anymore because I am now a permanent 24/7 butler. All right, shall we get into a case that you think you'll think I've told you the mystery, and then you'll discover I really haven't told you the mystery. It's a case where something happened. Everyone lived their lives happily ever after. And then it was discovered they hadn't. So if you ever think everything's settled down, sometimes there's no end. So we're going to do the curious case of Bobby Dunbar. If you know what's coming, right? I love the chat interaction, but on this one, if you know what's coming, don't put it in the chat, so we can keep everyone surprised, because this is a genuine twist. Right, this is. Roger, Roger. So, it's 1912, and the south of America becomes gripped with the story of a boy who had vanished. So, Robert Bobby Dunbar was the elder son of Clancy, and Lelia Leslie Dunbar, a Louisiana couple. He was born in 1908 in Opelousas. His was a middle-class family. I'm going to stop there and ask if the smudge has gone before I forget. Has the smudge gone? Ditch that. I'll carry on and I'll ditch cancer. It has gone, thank God for that. Cleaning products were used. A newspaper of the account of the time described Bobby as full size for age, stout but not fat, large, round blue eyes. Miss it. I see what you're doing. Light hair and very fair skin with rosy cheeks. Left foot had been burned when a baby and shows scar on big toe. Remember that? His parents worked in real estate and insurance. He was well off. They were all happy. 2 years later, the family had another son, Alonzo. In 1912, the Dunbars went on a fishing trip to Swayze Lake in Louisiana's St. Landy Parish, an area of swampy water and alligators, with cabins accessible only by a railway, right? So they've gone to a part of Louisiana you can only get to on a railway. This was a common spot for well-to-do holidaymakers. The Dunbars had family friends on a group weekend. On August 23rd, Percy Dunbar had to leave the lake to do some real estate business, and Bobby was spotted hanging out with a family friend. Hello, Thelonious! You're going to enjoy this one. I'm going to recap you, Thelonious, because this is a good one. We're talking about Bobby Dunbar. It's 1912. His middle-class family have gone to an isolated holiday spot. You know what that means. He was spotted hanging out with a family friend. The friend said Bobby came back with him. He was last seen headed on his own going to get lunch. But he didn't appear at lunch. In fact, he didn't appear at all that day. He'd vanished. The authorities conducted an immediate search, with over 100 locals from nearby towns coming by train, because that's the only way in, and joining as they probed the swamp and surrounding land. They searched every cabin. His cap was found, a shoe, and some footprints at the railway stop. But no Bobby and no body. The search was so intense, suspicious-looking alligators were killed and checked to see if they'd eaten him. They used dynamite to see if they could free a body that had been stuck in the mud. Eventually, they concluded there was absolutely no sign of him at the getaway. But the Dunbars were not going to accept that Bobby had vanished into a lake somehow. And they began an 8-month-long manhunt. The Dunbars were convinced somebody had abducted him, so they spent any money they could to track them down, a $5,000 reward, boosted by $1,000 from another supporter. And that's a lot of money. I know it's a lot of money now, but it's awful lot of money back then. They sent postcards with a photograph and description to authorities across America. They did everything they could to keep Bobby in the public eye. They even visited orphanages to see if Bobby had been brought in safe, but with maybe some sort of amnesia. And they hired the Burns Detective Agency. A lead was found. The lead was William Cantwell Walters. He was an itinerant repairman of organs and pianos. He'd been travelling through the area that August, and people reported he was travelling with a small boy in a tented wagon. That's not a euphemism. The campaign to send Bobby's photo out, the judge there, the campaign to send Bobby's photo out had worked. Hey, I'll just see you on YouTube, Foxy. Keep remembering to check that. If anyone's been in YouTube and I completely ignored them last time, I'm very sorry. It was only when the stream ended I remembered I'm streaming to YouTube and Twitch at the same time. So I'm sorry. So the campaign to send a photo had worked, as a photo of the young boy had been sent back by a doctor in Mississippi who'd spotted him. They were able to find Walton Pro Streamer. It's my first day. Don't say Pro Streamer. That might end up happening soon. Oh God. They were able to find Walters in Mississippi, where somebody thought they'd seen Dunbar, and they found the boy who was with Walters. Walters said, "I've not abducted this boy. No, it's not my son. It's the son of Julia Anderson. She worked for my family, and I was just looking after him as I travel around America. His name's Charles Anderson, but we call him Bruce." You could have called him literally anything that didn't begin with a B, so it makes discussing this easier, Walter. But there we are. So, Walters was arrested, and Percy went to see the boy. And it was Bobby. He was so convinced it was Bobby, he sent for his wife. Leslie had grown ill during the stress of the search, and when she arrived at the station to come and see and identify Bobby, she was overwhelmed by the crowd of interested onlookers. Now, what happens next is unclear and depends on what newspaper account you read, because there are different versions. In some accounts, I hope this isn't leading. I assure you, there's a great twist and no missing body parts. We've already got past the alligators. I think you'll notice at the end of this that I've done a deliberately slightly less grotesque one this time, just to give us all a break. We'll save the heavy streams and intersperse them with some lighter ones. He says, talking about a missing child. God. If you've just wandered in here by mistake, it's okay not to like this. It's not for everyone. Right. So, in some accounts, Bobby and his mother recognised each other instantly. Yeah. Yes, Thelonious. Recognised his mother instantly. In others, Bobby cried and the mum was uncertain. In others still, the Dunbars had been told to play it cool and not immediately recognise him, because the mob who had come to praise them and welcome to the station might rush out and lynch Walters. However, whatever version of that you want to interpret, Leslie had a chance to spend time there the next day, including washing him. She recognised his molar marks. He was meant to have a burn on his foot. So, and the mum went, "This is Bobby. We found Bobby." They found Bobby! Bobby, reunited with her family, went home. Bobby was seen frequently calling her Mummy. When they got home, Bobby was held up to the crowd, Lion King style, and the whole town had taken the day off to come and see. For the rest of the year, the Dunbars were the guests of honour at every party and event. The media had been obsessed by this story, and there was even a song of the time, "The Mystery of the Dunbar's Child," which I'm sure, with a suitable remix, I could get into the charts. Steve's probably sat there going, "Oh God." However, even in the wider coverage, there was an element of doubt. And the element of doubt crept in because a reporter got in touch with Julia Anderson, mother of Bruce, because they found Bobby. Why am I shaking so much? I am a jiggler. I have a jiggly leg I inherited from my father. When I'm sitting, I frequently jiggle my leg. It's a family trait. Julia Anderson turned up because they found Bobby, but where's Bruce? Because Bruce, it turned out, did exist. Julia Anderson did have a son called Bruce, and if he wasn't with Walter, where's he gone? She said Walter's had her son Bruce. Thanks, Steve. And Walter's Walter had not taken him away without permission, because he was meant to go with him for a few days. However, this had then developed into an out of permission because he was not meant to be taken across the state. But Julia said, "That's not Bobby. That's Billy. Walter's still with Billy." And then the social bigotry of the time took over. The Dunbars were a lovely middle-class family who said this was their son. Anderson was a single woman who had Bruce out of wedlock. And then Anderson was presented with a lineup of 5 children, including Bobby, and asked to identify Bruce. She struggled and wasn't sure. And only the next day, when she was able to look at his moles and marks, did she say this was Bruce. But her claim was rejected. She was poor and could not afford to go to court to challenge it. Instead, she had to wait for the trial of Walters, who was on trial for kidnapping. It was the trial of the year. 1,000 people packing into a 300-person courtroom. Anderson testified from her sickbed because this was having a bad effect on her. Here, residents of Poplarville, Mississippi, testified that Walters and Bruce had been spotted and it wasn't Bobby. The defence showed there was no evidence or any convincing theory for how Walter had got to the isolated lake area, kidnapped him, and got back out again without any evidence of being on a train. But Walters was a travelling man of little means and was found guilty. He faced execution but was given life imprisonment. And then in prison, Walter wrote a letter. "It seems that I must suffer now for an imaginary sin or crime that has never been committed. Dying, I can look up through the ethereal blue of heaven, thank God, and say my conscience is clear." Walters won an appeal on a technicality in the Supreme Court 2 years later, and rather than pay for a trial again, they just let him go. He resumed his itinerant life and died in 1945, always claiming he was innocent. Anderson settled in Poplarville, where she felt misunderstood. Married a man she'd met during the trial and had more children. She never stopped believing Bobby was Bruce. The Dunbars settled down for a while. However, Mr. and Mrs. Dunbar split up in 1920 and divorced. But Bobby went on to have a rich, full, happy life. He married, he joined the Briggs Electrical Supply Company, he had 4 kids, and sadly, at a reasonable age, he died of a heart attack in 1966. Do you think that's the end of the story? It's not. That Bobby Dunbar was not Bobby Dunbar. Not from the moment he was recovered. How do we know this? Well, I'm going to go into how this became proved without a shadow of a doubt. So, obviously, now and again, people would bring up this case and look at it and talk about it. There was a small element of doubt. Anderson never changed her mind. Who believed Bobby was Bruce, and many of the town still believed it true. Many still believed it into the late 1990s. Many years later then, after Bobby had died in 1999, with local rumours still sort of swirling around now and again, one of Bobby's granddaughters decided that they could prove once and for all that Bobby had been Bobby. They began a great study of every record they could find, including newspaper reports, material from lawyers, and speaking to Anderson's children. In order to do this, she teamed up with another woman who was interested, Linda Traver. She was the granddaughter of Anderson, and she was interested in proving the exact opposite. Somehow these two managed to work together, but there was tensions between them. Linda Traver said Margaret was totally convinced it was Bobby Dunbar all along. I was totally convinced it was Bruce Anderson all along. The turning point was an anonymous letter they found sent to Walter's lawyer. Dear Sir, in view of human justice to Julia Anderson and mothers, I am prompted to write to you. I sincerely believe the Dunbars have Bruce Anderson and not their boy. If this is their child, why are they afraid for anyone to see him or interview him privately? I would have nothing to fear, and it seems strange. The Dunbars claim that if this had been their own child, and he had been gone 8 months... the Dunbars claim that this had been their own child and been gone 8 months. But do you think his features would be so changed that it would only recognise him by his moles and scars? This is a farce. If the Dunbars do not know the child who has only been gone 8 months by his features, why don't they know him at all? And so, Margaret tried to get a DNA test. Cat DNA, ditch actual DNA. Obviously, Bobby was dead, but Bobby Dunbar Jr. was alive. He repeatedly refused requests, but suddenly he agreed. And the DNA was taken, and the DNA was studied and compared to Bobby's cousin, who was definitely part of the family. Yeah, he wasn't Bobby. He was Bruce. The DNA showed it. This raised a few awkward questions. Firstly, what had happened to the real Bobby, who had vanished and whose body has never been found? Secondly, why did Bruce never say anything? Was it simply because he did not wish to be travelling around with a poor man and preferred the middle-class upbringing of the Dunbars? Thirdly, did the Dunbars ever actually realise, and how did they go on? This was, however, not really a triumph of detective work. While the Andersons were thrilled to know that this was their relative, it blew the Dunbar family apart. Bobby Dunbar Jr. put a brave face on it to the Associated Press. My intent was to prove that we were Dunbars. The results didn't work out that way, and I have to do some readjusting in my life, but I would do it again. I haven't had any big metamorphoses here. I don't intend to change my name. My daddy's still my daddy, and my mother's still my mother. That doesn't change anything at all. But it was also quoted as saying, all right, if my past is wrong, Bobby Dunbar, the legends, all the stories, and then all of a sudden you find out, well, that's not who your grandpa says you are. Then all of a sudden you find out, well, that's not your blood says you are. Where does that leave me? Who am I? The most likely conclusion is that Bobby had fallen into the lake and been eaten by a stray alligator. And that, because the body was not found, Bruce was sort of willingly abducted and lived the rest of his life in totally different circumstances. However, if Bobby was out there to be saved, his parents' decision to take in Bruce cost all the investigation. And that's the story of Bobby, not Bobby Dunbar. What do we think of that, chap? Yeah, Dunbar. I think Dunbar's probably a really popular name. Yeah. It's certainly a... I mean, it was already an interesting sort of mystery, but then it became something else. And you do sort of wonder, what else is out there? What else can be found? Obviously, the big thing in the true crime world. Yeah, losing a child must be a drain on the sanity. And I've often wondered, and I don't really like to wildly speculate on psychiatry, but I often wonder if the Dunbars seized on the first possible opportunity, if only to bring the mother back to health. I'm not sure if the father necessarily thought it, but his mother convinced herself. And then, of course, they did split up soon after. You do sometimes wonder if something played a role in that. You know, if there's a whole psychodrama here that we can only see in. But I don't like to go big on stuff that's speculation in the books. But I guess here this is a chatty forum. We can. I think you're right. I think, you know, if they knew in any way, or one of them knew, it must be because they were seizing onto the hope of having him back, and the hope of having him back was more important than necessarily, and masked completely any doubt that he was the wrong kid. But yeah, Thelonious Monk says us mothers can do some weird stuff when it comes to our children. As if I dare criticise mothers. Unfortunately, that doesn't lend itself to having a poll because we've actually got the DNA. I'm just having a double check to see where we might be going after the next story. Not been able to do a vast amount of research into great streams we could raid, so we may just go back to kittens because kittens. Everyone loves kittens. I was hoping some of the crafters I follow would be on, but they're not. Barrattry, thanks for the bitch ditch. No, I've not been able to get to Barrattry. What is the plan? In fact, I suppose I ought to explain why I haven't got to Barrattry yet, because this is the other day I put up my first YouTube short. It was a clip from this stream, and it was pitched as a little bit of comedic relief as you're scrolling through the shorts. But I've been thinking, normally I like telling stories. YouTube Shorts is a medium where you have 60 seconds. Can I tell the stuff that I do in this stream in 60 seconds in an interesting way that's not too without anything? This stream's great. I can go into as much depth as I want. We can chat around. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and tell some of the stories I've told you in a much smaller form. We will see how it goes. So I'm going to be doing that, Ditch and audience. And if you come in here every night looking for the Barrattry, I'm afraid I haven't done that yet. However, one lead. I am going to be doing the spooky stream sooner rather than later. And I'm going to be doing an unsolved mystery stream sooner rather than later. And I was reading about ghost ships, and I don't just mean, the Flying Dutchman, galleons steaming along. I believe the last reported incident of a ship found floating without any crew, when nobody knows where the crew have gone, was in 2022. So maybe some ghost ships. Might be a fun thing for one or the other of those streams. I have also got some props. Be afraid. Be afraid. For the spooky stream. Oh, you saw a follow up on one of the last stream stories. Go for it, Ditch. Go for it. What did you find? Last stream we did the Golden State Killer, and we did the Eunuch Maker. Give me the update. Yeah, the Eunuch Maker. Yes, I bet there's been some updates in the last 48 hours. 22 years. Yes. 22 years in prison. That is that's a life sentence with a minimum of 22 years. So potentially longer. And if you're interested in what on earth the unit maker is, firstly, I fear for your soul, and secondly, the VODs are all on YouTube. Do look me up and give me a follow if you're interested. There is a link tree on Twitch and on YouTube, and you can find everything I do. And I am pleased to say that the unit maker will be in volume 4 of True Crime Dossiers. That's already written up. Sorry, the story's written, the book's ongoing, but that's already written up and will be in there. Wait, where was I? So just finishing off the short. So that might be coming if you fancy getting your true crime in 60 seconds. We shall have an experiment. I've already written most of it, so it's just a case of practicing my performance. The unit maker being the largest. If you're wondering what we're talking about, we did a poll at the end. So we did the Golden State Killer, and we did the unit maker. And the unit maker was a story about a man who genuinely had an online streaming business where people would spend sums of money to watch other blokes have their genitals cut off. And that was their lighter story. We had a poll, and the chat kindly said that was actually the one that was the least grueling to listen to. So if you want to go back and see what was worse, it was 100% one way. You were like, yes, Sydney, yes, I'm live on YouTube. I'm still going to be moving the VODs over, but yep, we are doing both of those. There are other platforms you can stream on. I'm not sure at the moment whether I'll try that. I think Twitch and YouTube is a good base to start with. Ditch says OnlyFans. I don't think I necessarily possess the right talents and material to make a living off OnlyFans. Not that I know what that is, but I believe there's a certain requirement, a certain type of interest people have to have in you, and I don't think I'm going to fit on that. On the other hand, if it all goes really, really wrong, you might have no choice. Sure, there's a few people that like larger fellas. This is getting weird now. You have a link tree, I make assumptions. Yeah. No, link trees are really important, Ditch. Link trees are not just a way to secretly point people to your OnlyFans. Although I know they are often secretly a way to point people at your OnlyFans. But no, they're very helpful. Hopefully somebody can see this stream, find the VODs, find Amazon to buy the books. And if I ever get round to starting to run Twitter as a daily source. Thank you for doing the shop ditch. Yes, if anybody doesn't know, many of these stories are from the true crime books I've published on Amazon. Copies are available. An omnibus of the first 3 volumes has just been produced, so you can get the first 3 volumes essentially for 2/3 of the cost. But the plan is to keep the VODs on YouTube forever, so it depends what you want. The books do have more material. There's been several stories. I'll get to that in a sec. There's been several stories where I have not read out quoted material because I don't think it's the right vibe for the stream, but it is in the books. I'm a trained historian, and if you have any interest in the French Revolution or the Russian Revolution, I have written 2 textbooks. Now, I'm going to explain this because I don't really get the chance to explain this on Amazon, right? I'm a really boring man that loves really huge dry history books, but I think what I can do is communicate that to people that don't want big dry history books and give them a fun, informative experience. So I write my history textbooks. in a way that has given some history teachers have given me very bad reviews, because I don't write like a formal textbook. I write like it's this stream. I am talking to you. I'm chatting to you. I'm telling you the story. It's still all factual, still all true, still all checked, still all serious. But it's me talking to you, and that's the vibe. It's called History in an Afternoon. I've done 2 so far. I may do some more. Textbook. Well, they're books for anyone interested in the subject. Will get you, if you read this book, you will get a good basic understanding of that subject. But they are, when do people first come to books like that? Well, I've sold a lot to students. I call them textbooks because I've sold a lot to students who want that sort of chatty through introduction. I'm not going to sit there and attempt to teach the French Revolution with a load of terms that I think often mask the fascination of the subject. I'm not saying they shouldn't be used, because obviously in a relatively high level discussion you have to have technical terms. I just genuinely believe that often people disappear behind the terms, and there's not enough explaining to everyone else who have a. History is fascinating. There's loads of people would love history, I think, if it was presented in the right way, which is what I try to do. But again, which is why I'm doing these streams. If you watch a lot of true crime streams on YouTube, you may notice I present things deliberately in a slightly different way. I'm not going to bore you with why, because I think it often looks like an attack on other people, and I'm absolutely not about that. There's many brilliant YouTubers and streamers on. There's many brilliant YouTubers on true crime. I'm not really aware of any current streamers, and if you find any, let me know. But I have set out to do things a bit differently, in the way to do stuff I want to listen. That's in the way I want to listen. But I'm absolutely not going to say anything that looks like an attack, because that's not what it is. So, but can you? Yes, Ditch, right. You absolutely can make requests for stories. Now, there's 2 parts to this. Firstly, in my Discord, there is a section where you can tell me about things you found, stories you've seen over the internet, breaking news, things buried away. Absolutely, if you find something interesting, I would love you to tell me about it. And if you do want me to dig into something, tell me about that too. But primarily, if you're reading something, you like it, I've not covered it, send it to me. You can do that in the Discord, please, which is on my link tree. There should be a permanent link. Please do come to the Discord. You can, my link tree, we could even do a poll on what stories to cover. Yes, we could. If this stream was a democracy. Whereas it is made, what's the word where a cat is in charge? Catocracy. Not that the cat's here. You love Scandi history. Yeah, that's cool. Whisper, that's the. So whispering me is good. Emailing, my email is on websites. You can email me. You can't put links in chat, and that is obviously to protect people, primarily me, from people putting madness in. But if you do see something, you're welcome to reach out and we'll talk about it. So there was a poll. I dread to think. I'm going to click the link. What is the poll? Should there be more stories about cats? Well, I'm open to that. I'm not sure how many stories about cats I can find, but obviously when the Jack the Ripper series is ready to be broadcast, there is a cat in that. The cat knows who Jack the Ripper is, but sadly can't speak English. So, Really? That sounds like I'm making that up, but really. The Jack the Ripper case has a famous cat. More cats. Okay, we'll have a look. We'll have a look for some more cat-based crime action. Obviously, you've got... Thelonious has got 26 cat stories. In that case, please get in the Discord and tell me what they are. Last night I was talking to Steve and I jokingly said I'll do a stream in a cat outfit. Thelonious, if you've genuinely got 26 true crime cat stories, I feel it's all coming together for a career low point. They're boring. Okay. Oh yeah, I've just realised there was no option. Yes and click. Ditch acting like he's in charge of some sci-fi city there. Directing people along. Right, we will get into the final story. And the final story is about Darryl Kuehl, who is a cuckoo. What is a cuckoo? Well, you're going to find out. In 1994, Darryl Kuehl took Paul Gruber's life. I don't just mean he killed him. I mean he took his furniture, his bank accounts, and even sent birthday cards to his family. So the last time his daughter saw Paul Gruber alive was the Christmas of 1993. Paul Gruber was a retired school teacher who spent the holiday with his daughter. He returned home in early 1994, where he lived at Muskrat Lake in Idaho. As far as his family knew, he made it home, settled back into life. Shortly after, his daughter Shelley did find it impossible to actually get a spoken word conversation, but they were just automated answer phone messages. There were birthday cards. There was still phone communication. She just couldn't get him onto the phone. Now, time passed, and Shelley grew worried. It was unusual for her not to speak in person over communications with her dad. Yes, cards were arriving, but she began to get more and more suspicious of those. Finally, in February, her son received a birthday card, and it just didn't feel like her dad. She rang the police. The handwriting wasn't right, the tone, the signature. I knew something wasn't right. The police said, "Okay, well, we'll go and check on him." So they went to Paul Gruber's residence and had a shock. Well, there was no signs of life. When I say there was no signs of life, I mean the house was practically empty. All the furniture and other possessions were mostly gone. No one had lived here for a while. Not only had they not lived here for a while, they'd moved out. Gruber's truck and boat were missing. The police didn't think Paul Gruber had been harmed initially because somebody was still paying all the bills. His post was being collected. He was sending cards to his family. But, unlike many of these stories, these were good cops, and they did a full search of the property. And that's when they discovered that one of the rugs had been glued to the floor. Nothing else in the house was glued to the floor. Nothing else in the house was glued to the floor. This wasn't some highly eccentric person gluing things down. So they removed the rug, and they discovered it was covering a mark on the floor consistent with a bullet hitting it. And they also discovered blood belonging to Paul Gruber. Thank you for the poll, Ditch. 10 people, which is quite a large portion of the audience, have said clearly there should be more stories about cats. All right, we're going in. We will go in on cats. You do need to give me some time to organise this. I am like trying to move an oil tanker. I am like trying to redirect a diplodocus in a race. Diplodocus. I mean Brontosaurus, don't I? They're the big ones. Anyway. We shall look into cat-based. Obviously, you've got until Tuesday. No, I'm doing YouTube Shorts until Tuesday. Well, I'm doing YouTube Shorts about cats until Tuesday. The YouTube Short is about cats. Please go watch it. Are you alright, Sydney? I'm not sure what you've done, Sydney, but I'm not sure what you've done in chat. You're right. Oh, a clip. Yeah, if you can. Yeah, so the chat won't display. Won't allow YouTube links or anything like that. Or it's pretty standard across Twitch. If you could stick it in the Discord, if you'd be so inclined, that would be awesome. Yeah, it's not a problem, Sydney. It's just just going with what everyone else does, which is not to stick links in, because you never know, you might get some maniac coming in. Not that I'm saying you are, but things happen. Can mods post links? They should be able to. Yes. Actually, I will turn on the ability for mods to post links, so stuff can be whispered to mods and stuff. I will turn that on. Not now, if it's not already on, but I will get that sorted out. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you. That's a good idea. So Gruber was now presumed murdered, and they did a detailed search, but they didn't find a body in the area. But of course, as you may guess, they had a very strong lead. He was posting cards to his family and collecting his post. So they looked up the security footage of the post office, and they quite easily found the man who'd been going to the post box. Obviously, it was not Paul Gruber. It was a man called Darryl Kuehl, a local handyman in his mid-40s. Police went to question him, and Kuehl said, "Well, yes, I've been working for Gruber. I haven't seen him for a while, but I picked up the post and made sure everything ran." This wasn't convincing, but it was at least possible. Kuehl could prove he had been hired for Gruber as a handyman. Unfortunately for Darryl, he couldn't help but take the story into the realm of the completely ridiculous. The police asked him to sorry, I've jumped ahead to my favourite bit. So it gets ridiculous. The police show Darryl a photo of Paul Gruber. Darryl said, "That wasn't the man I've been dealing with. I must have been dealing with an imposter. I don't know where Paul Gruber is." Is that any? Could that still be possible? Could that still be possible? What do we think? Because the next thing that happened was blatantly ridiculous. Darryl was sat down and asked with a police artist and asked to describe the man he'd been dealing with. And due to what could only be described as a complete lack of imagination, he simply described the police artist. Yeah, the police pretty much knew he'd done it now, didn't they? So they pushed on. They discovered that large sums of money had been moved from Gruber's bank account to Darryl's. The latter said he was just paying bills, which was partially right, but the police believed, well, there could be a motive of greed here. Darryl's not a wealthy man. Gruber had been well off until all his money had ended up with Darryl. Meanwhile, the truck had been found. It was abandoned with the keys inside, and there was no forensic evidence. And Gruber's cell phone and safe also turned up, seemingly dumped. The force is strong with this one. However, this is a story of birthday cards and stolen identities. So the police sent samples of Gruber's handwriting and the post that had been written, and Darryl's, to expert Robert Floberg. Oh, that seemed to have worked. The expert said Gruber hadn't written the letters. Darryl had. If you are interested, Floberg has a website, robertfloberg.com, and he has a very large account of what precisely in the writing gave it away. If you are into handwriting or you want to see that, robertfloberg.com. I have quoted a section from it in the books. And reference the website, of course, if you want to do that. But we're not going to go into that here, because I'm not sure everybody necessarily wants 10 minutes on handwriting. Anyway. And then, of course, forensic experts managed to get saliva from the back of the postage stamps and managed to get Darryl's DNA off it. That's good, didn't it? So, this information got them a search warrant, and they went to Darryl's home. They found a huge amount of the furniture and possessions which had come from Gruber's home, and they also found a hidden cache of weapons, including two .22 guns with homemade silencers. Then, after repeated searches in Gruber's own home for clues, the police decided they needed some experts. They asked a carpenter to have a look round the house and see if he could see any new work or anything that had been done. As he did, he spotted a depression in the crawl space. Digging here, they found a layer of plastic, then a corpse wrapped in an air mattress. It was Paul Gruber, and he had been shot 4 times with 2 different .22 guns. Sheriff Roos noted I myself had walked over that body no less than 4 times, and caliver dogs had been over the area too. So Darryl was charged and stood trial. Prosecution was clear this was a deliberate act, not an accident. Accidents don't get shot 4 times. Accidents don't get buried in the house. The evidence in this house is too strong not to convict. The jury agreed. And on May 2nd, 1977, Gruber was found guilty of murder, theft, and forgery. Yeah, that's not quite all, though. Because Darryl was not taking this lying down. Oh, no. Darryl was working like a maniac to get off. During the trial, it was urged that Darryl had spoken to her about the case to a cellmate. Darryl was planning to escape from prison, understandable, and murder the detectives working on the case so they couldn't convict him, not really understandable. He offered $15,000 to another inmate to assist, but in the end he couldn't find the money. This isn't believed to have been a fantasy by the cellmate, because Darryl told the cellmate things only the killer could have known, and therefore information had to have come from Darryl, such as the colour of the air mattress in the burial. Darryl now produced a new plan. Get his wife to find a homeless person and videotape them confessing. Somehow he managed to get his wife to meet a man, give him $1,000 and 2 cars. But police managed to find out and interrupt things. So, Darryl was in the end given life imprisonment. The motive was outlined at the trial as greed with an utter disrespect for human life. And that is a cuckoo. In Britain, a cuckoo is more commonly in crime, where a criminal gang take over somebody else's residence against their will and use it as a base of operations. Cuckooing. But I'd call this bloke a cuckoo because he, So, how do we feel about that? Excellent. Thanks very much for the clip. I don't know. I'm gonna see what if I click that. It's not gonna knacker anything, is it? I can see what you've clicked. Yeah, 'cause it's all for Bobby. Just gonna see what you've kindly clicked from us, isn't it? Just give me a second. Oh yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Thanks very much. I feel it's a bit rude to watch your own material on stream. Right, well, thanks everyone. Have we enjoyed these 3 stories? Thanks, Sin. It's brilliant. It was too loud again. Have we enjoyed this this material? Bit different to Tuesday. Not as horrifying as Tuesday. So, you know what that means? The next one's gonna be awful. The next one's going to be awful. I genuinely have, and right, brace yourselves. I genuinely have 2 good stories about a 19th and 21st century torso murder or 2, which I might drop in on Tuesday. They're fascinating. Oh, hang on, right, just a second. Hang on, where's the mouse? Oh, look. We have had a we've had a sort of appearance on CatCam. Oh yes. Hello, do come up. You're welcome to come up. Yeah, come up. Right, she's on the desk. Oh. I don't know if you probably can't see her because the camera's a bit high. I'll see if she goes over and sits on. Hello, Polly. You're live on the internet. There are people watching you, CatCam. Yes, do you want to have a sit on your special bed? So this is Polly. She's a 13-year-old rescue tabby. She was once incredibly ill and is now back to full health and giving me panic attacks with her crazy antics. That's not even an exaggeration. Yes, finally, right. It's actually working. I have herded a cat, ladies and gentlemen. I have herded a cat. This is the high point of the stream. It's all downhill from here. And if you think we're ending now, you're wrong, because we're just going to see how long we can go with the cat cam. Oh, thank you, Thelonious. Yes. I love her to bits. She can be very delicate, and she does still display some trauma from what she's been through. But she's given all the love and support she could possibly want. So yeah. Frame rate is amazing on that camera. Ironically, the cat cam has put Polly in much better imagery than I have. She also likes giving me heart attacks. Yeah. She repays me with love, cuddles, and medical emergencies. I actually can't believe this has worked. Hello, Polly. Look, Polly. If you look up there, you can see her on the internet. Are you going to wash your ass with 20 people watching you? That might. No tip alerts. You tipped 32 minutes ago, and I think I don't know if it came up. I thought I turned them back on. I'll check, but there's only been one tip tonight. Oh, you've just tipped for Polly. It's not come through on my activity feed. I don't know what's happened. It's only, oh right. Oh, okay. Well, I was looking away, so I don't know what happened. If it's not appeared, I've obviously failed to turn them back on. Very sorry. I'll get that sorted. I'll have a look. I'm not sure where tips show up at this point. So, but yes, Dreamies. Ditch has brought you some Dreamies, Polly. Which are your favourite things? The thing about Polly is Polly had to take some medication, which she had to have when in the morning and the evening. So when I got up, I gave her a medication. And when I went to bed, I gave her a medication. And I mixed the medication up with Dreamies. Unfortunately, this means Polly associates me getting up and going to bed with Dreamies. Unfortunately, this also associates if I get up in the night to go to the loo, Polly thinks I'm awake and demands Dreamies. You can see this is a never-ending quest for Dreamies. I don't have any money to invest, but if I did, shares in Dreamies would probably be a good idea. Yeah, thanks for the tip, Liz. We will. That will definitely. I'm not going to go and get it. I don't know if you. Right, Thelonious is asking what are Dreamies. Dreamies are a brand of cat treat. They're probably the most famous UK cat treat, and they are famous because they work all the time, 100% of the time. I've never seen a cat that will not chew your hand off to get some Dreamies. I have to buy Dreamies in a giant tub. She's looking well, she is, isn't she? I'm not going to try and stroke her. When she wants strokes, she will nudge me, and when she doesn't want strokes, she will not nudge me. So, if she's sat there like that, she doesn't want strokes at the moment. She got over the excursion to the porch better than I did. Yeah, she was fine after about 10 seconds. I was not fine until maybe halfway through today, when other problems overtook it. So, in fact, she was so fine, she tried to jump out the window again, but the window was shut. You're silly, aren't you? Well, why would you jump down to somewhere where I had to get a ladder, knowing I'd have to get a ladder again? You're looking away from the camera deliberately. So we might do 2 torso murders on Tuesday. We shall see. I appreciate that that's not necessarily the most fun topic in the world, but they're interesting. So let me give you a bit of context. They're both Thames torso murders. The first one is highly adjacent to Jack the Ripper. Some people have claimed that it's the same killer. Oh, Thelonious asked, does Polly have spurts of being crazy? Yes, Polly still has her crazy cat time. Normally at 4 in the morning when I'm trying to go to bed. Polly's allowed in the bedroom, she's allowed on the bed, but often I will be trying to go to sleep and I will hear what can only be described as the sound of industrial building works. But it's just you doing I don't know what to create that noise. But in the morning it's all still there, so I don't know what she does. Yeah, she can go from she's got a fish. Yeah, she goes from being incredibly kittenish to the point that if we didn't, we only know how old she is because she's got a microchip and they were able to trace it. If she hadn't been chipped, we would have no idea she was 13, because she does have these teenage bursts of energy. On the other hand, yeah, sometimes, she is fragile and traumatized. So just help her through that. Now cat loaf, yeah. You're enjoying being on the internet. Enjoying being a star. You're famous now. Can you do this every day at time we stream? I think people would prefer it if I spoke true crime and they watched you, to be honest. I'm not really sure. I've got no content left for tonight, so I'm not really sure how long you want me to keep Cat Cam going. I'm happy to keep going. Let me know in chat. Now we've finally got it happening. Do please ignore the massive pile of cables. Should probably have tidied that. If Cat Cam is going to be a regular fixture, Polly, we're going to have to put something here. Oh no. Where's the oh, here. Oh, it's up here. Yeah, we're going to have to put something there to advertise, aren't we? Actually, we should probably put your name on the notice board so people know who you are. Is that dead? That's dead now, isn't it? Maybe you could get a Dreamy sponsorship. Yeah. She certainly would do well on video, woofing him down. Speech commercial manager. I mean, at this point, a Dreamy sponsorship would save me a vast quantity of money from my little remorseless eating machine. We're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to add 4 things in the stream title, aren't I? We're gonna have to have the 3 things, and at the end, it's just gonna have to be Polly the cat. That's going to really confuse anyone that's logged in thinking they're going to get 4 true crime stories, and then they're wondering, oh, I've never heard of the Polly the cat crime story, and then this turns up. Oh, Thelonious, her facial markings is similar to Ulysses. Yes, yes. Are you still in, Foxy? Because Foxy watches Adam Mark, who is a paranormal investigator and urban explorer. And one of the bits of equipment he uses are these cat toys called cat balls. And these balls, the idea is they're made for cats so that when cats touch the balls, they give off lights and sounds. So he sticks them on the floor, and if they go off, the idea is a ghost has done it. But I don't know these exist. So there's a possibility, Polly, we might get you some cat balls. Does that sound fun? I don't know why I'm pulling faces because you can't see me. Just Polly. Seems quite happy. Thanks, Ditch. I've just found the email. That's great. That will keep Polly in treats. I will make sure I turn this back on. Thanks, Sydney. Right. Well, I'm not sure how much longer we should keep this up. Are you going to do this regularly? Because that would be great. Because people like you, Polly. But it has taken like 6 weeks for this to actually happen. Do you want to? Do we see if we do you want to? You in the mood for a stroke? No, not in the mood for a stroke. Which is fine. Yeah, does a story about cats. If I'm telling a story with a cat, is that fine? Is that a good? Maybe read a page of one of my history books so you can see us down. Oh, that's uh, I I, believe it or not, I read all these things through first. So I really don't like to read stuff dry. Um, I read I read. So although I sort of freelance a bit on the script, I do have a script for everything I read out, and I read it all through in the hours before. If I come to something dry, I think I just very boringly read it out. Oh yeah, the lady says, "Mine would be in for the strokes. You touch one, 10 come running." Yeah. So Polly was fostered by a very nice lady, and when Polly came here, that freed up room for the fosterer to take someone else. So she's actually got a mummy and 5 kittens at the moment. You never have enough hands, I can imagine. Right, normally I would be up for carrying this on for a long time, but regrettably I have a 9 a.m. meeting tomorrow. So although this is perfect and I'm glad you're all enjoying Polly. In fact, my viewers have gone up. My viewers have gone up while Polly has been on stream. We are now at the stream record. See? Your magic. People want to come and see you, Polly. I need to change the title, don't I? When Polly's on. Polly's spoken up exactly. We've had plenty of Polly. Alright everybody, thank you very much for coming on. I do appreciate all of you being here. I wouldn't really want to sit here and talk into the ether, so being able to interact with you is great. Your comments are great. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the bits and the tips and the subs. It's all been really good. Thank you for liking my princess. How could you not like my princess? Yes. And I will set. I mean, I'm going to set up a raid. We were always going to go and raid the kittens, but they're just not going to be as cute, are they? They're just not going to be as cute. Well, not to me, anyway. But we'll do that. Unless somebody else has sneaked on. I follow a few craft people. I hope to follow more. Because, they're never on now. Okay. Oh, you checked out the Dynaman. What did you think, IMR? I think he's great. I think he's really good. I've had I've had some positive feedback and people quite liked him. In fact, they very much liked him. I shouldn't be English and stick words like quieting when it comes to that. Alright, thanks everyone. She's gone. Let's go. Have fun.